Welcome, everyone, to today's Threads of Recovery workshop. I've stated I'm an alcoholic. Do we have any other alcoholics in the meeting? Please wave and smile. I'm acknowledging God's presence with a moment of silence. I'll follow that with a set-aside prayer. May I have a moment now, please? Set-aside prayer. Lord, help me set aside everything I think I know about you, everything that I think I know about myself, everything that I know about my fellows, everything I think I know about my own recovery, for a much-needed new experience in you, myself, and my fellows, and a new experience in my own recovery. Help me see the truth. Amen. 1058 Threads of Recovery continues to offer virtual workshops 5 days a week. To be included in our weekly email, send your request to threads1058@gmail.com. This will keep you up to date on our workshops. Our group follows the 12 traditions. We stick to our singleness of purpose. We ask that everyone act as if they're sitting in a live meeting. Please turn your camera on if possible. We'd love to see your smiling face. The 7th tradition states every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. The contributions help to cover the group's expenses, but the 7th tradition is more than simply paying for rent and other group expenses. It is both a privilege and a responsibility of individual groups and members to ensure that our organization at every level remains forever self-supporting and free of outside influences that might divert us from our primary purpose. The monetary amount of each contribution is secondary to the spiritual connection that joins us in unity with AA groups around the world. 7th tradition contributions can be made using Venmo to @threadsofrecovery-1058. Details are in the chat. This is an open meeting. Open meetings are available to anyone interested in alcoholics' programs of recovery from alcoholism. Non-alcoholics are welcome to attend open meetings as observers. And now it is my great pleasure to introduce today's speaker, John C. John is from Hamilton. John, the floor is yours. Please take it away.
Thank you, Anna. Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, or good evening, depending where you are. I hope everybody had a blessed Christmas holiday season, and all things work for the best in God's world. So I look forward to being with you today and continue this conversation about emotional sobriety and what really that represents, in my view. And first of all, let me just say I am an alcoholic. I belong to a group called the Agape Group in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. And I've been sober since December 23rd, 1972. And I have done a lot of research around emotional regulation, emotional sobriety, and I've opened up, I think, a larger definition of it. And sometimes I think what happens, and what happened with me, is that I concluded, I made an assumption that emotional sobriety is all about controlling my emotions, and therefore I would process them in a way in which I suppressed them. I avoided them, especially the more painful emotions that exist. You notice I didn't say good or bad. Sometimes what happens is that for me, to being an alcoholic, I'll do anything but feel pain. I'll do anything. And I don't know how I come by that, but I do. So therefore, some of the painful emotions I chose to ignore, not really understanding the consequences of doing that, because there's consequences and natural things of being a human. And unfortunately, I didn't get the manual at birth of how to live life. I wished I did. Maybe some of you got it, but I didn't get it. And I was left to try to figure all of this out and do it in a fashion that was responsible and mature and without harming or hurting anybody and so on, which I was not very good at. And I think that angst, that internal angst started the drinking. I don't know if it caused alcoholism or not, but it certainly started my drinking because I just didn't feel comfortable and at ease. And because of that, I chose drinking to numb a lot of my emotional expressions and so on. So when I sobered up, those emotions still stayed with me and sequenced the way they were sequencing. You notice in Dr. Silkworth's the doctor's opinion, he writes this, that, and he was observing this, that alcoholics were restless, irritable, and discontent. And they sought comfort through a drink of alcohol with comfort and ease. That's what we did. But first of all, the sequence in this is very important to me. First, I was restless, irritable, discontent. I sought alcohol to feel some comfort and some ease about who I was. So remove the alcohol. Guess what's left? Is restlessness, irritable, and discontent. So you think about those three words. They're emotions. They're my emotions. So then I try to do is try to control them. And what do I know about controlling things in AA? There are things I can control and there are things I can't. Now, this might surprise you, but I can't control what emotions show up when. I can't say, well, I'm going to control that. They just show up. And they show up sometimes in a crisis or a storm or a reversal in my life. And sometimes they just show up. I just feel anxiety for no particular reason, but I still feel it. And to think that I was doing something wrong because I was feeling those emotions was a mistake. It's a misconception because I really have no control over it. And I really would like you to think about this and reflect on it if you would, because I think it's very important to realize that emotions are natural. They're natural. There's nothing wrong with you for feeling anxiety or stress. There's nothing wrong with it. And what we do in our naivety is we make it mean something about ourselves. Oh, I guess I'm not practicing the program. Maybe I got to get some more sponsees or get more service. What's wrong with me? Maybe this is just my nature. And none of those things are true, by the way. Emotions show up the way emotions show up. There are contributing factors to it, though, which we've been talking about the last few weeks. And there's also contributing factors to having this, what is called emotional regulation. Not control, but emotional regulation. And some of the things we've been talking about was mindfulness, the practice of mindfulness. And I gave you an exercise, I believe, about mindfulness is really about getting focused on your breathing, because breathing really catapults you to the present moment if you're paying attention to your breath. Or if you're out for a walk, for instance, feeling your feet on the pavement as you walk brings you to the present moment. So these are kind of wax on, wax off kinds of practices. One might think it doesn't have much value, but what happens is you continue to practice mindfulness, where you get connected to your body's sensations, which is very important, and you also experience what there is to experience right now. And from that position, if we are non-judgmental, if we're looking to understand, and if we connect with our bodies, what happens is we begin to be creative in how we approach the things that are in front of us. To give you an example, if I feel anger, and I'm not observing the anger, I'm in the storm of anger, all creativity is cut off. There's no, what we might call common sense. It kind of leaves the room. because I'm being driven by this emotion called anger. However, if I look at it and I acknowledge that it's there, because I'm mindful, I could say, okay, I feel angry. And as an observer of anger, I want to be able to understand from that experience rather than condemn myself or make a conclusion about myself. And as I continue to learn about anger, I see some stuff that's underneath that has me deal in anger in a different way. And let me explain for a moment. I'm willing to be with anger rather than to fight it. I'm ready to feel the emotion as an observer and not react on it, but to appreciate and understand, because in my case, see if you can identify with this, I would withhold information, withhold communication. And something would upset me, I didn't say it. I chose to ignore it, thinking I was doing the right thing. But all of a sudden, like a volcano, a disruption would happen over some minor thing. And it wasn't the minor thing. It was all the withholding I was doing for a period of time, because I didn't know how to communicate when I was angry. I could just yell or throw things or whatever it was that I did. So I needed to go to school to begin to understand how to regulate my emotions and what contributes to that. And this is what this 7-week series is about. One of the things I want to share with you, and I just mean this so deeply and so lovingly to you, is to realize that all experiences need to be honored, not to get rid of or thrown away or forced out, to be honored, because each of the experiences, whether it's internal or external, is an opportunity to grow. And if I keep that kind of growth mindset, no matter what's in front of me, I'm able to expand through the grace of God and deal with things and develop what I'm going to be talking about in the second part of this meeting, about developing my strengths. So let's get started by, I quoted last week, I thought it was a great quote. Nothing is more precious than being in the present moment, fully alive, fully aware. That's mindfulness. Not to be afraid of it, not to feel what has to be felt, just to be with it. And there's nothing wrong with you. I find we in AA oftentimes overinvest in our weaknesses. And there's some good things about that, by the way, when it's done with regulation. So the idea is, if I knew what my weaknesses were, if I knew what understood the duration and the intensity of them, if I can do them less often and shorten the duration and surface the intensity of it, I could say that I'm making progress, which I could conclude would be emotionally sober. And although that's true, I'm not making a false statement. I think all of us can feel some pride and some gratefulness to be able to do that with our weaknesses. But what I've learned was that is not true in science. We're much better off in dealing with our strengths, developing our strength spotting, strength regulation, which I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that at the later part of this webinar. So that's not my opinion, by the way, friends. It's not my view of it. It's even more than my experience of it. It's in the science literature that does testing on these kinds of things, and that is social experiments. And what I did, and I don't know if you did this, I overinvested in my defects of character. I tried to look at them from every angle I possibly could. I could share it with you from I had clarity on it. I knew what they were. I knew what was happening. I knew the results and the consequences of them. When somebody asked me what I was good at, I looked at them as if I had fish eyes. I didn't really know. And it's not because One time I would have thought, maybe I'm just not smart enough to realize that, but it has nothing to do with that. It has more to do with where I'm paying attention. Where am I focusing my life? And I want you to imagine something that's happening when although it's responsible to look at our defects and be responsible for them, by the way, I'm not suggesting we're not. But when we define ourselves that way, our life becomes smaller, smaller, smaller. Because we're dealing most of the time at the center of our identity. Example, I am selfish. Well, I no longer say that. I say something like, I have selfish moments. And today I had a selfish moment. I'm not selfish because I believe in God's given me a sacred identity of goodness, well-being. He's passed on to me the love that exists in a human being so that I can pass on that to others. And I don't want to infiltrate that sacred identity with all kinds of defects of character. So how do I justify step 10 now? Simply by I rate my behavior, not me. I am bigger than my defects of character, and so are you. We are bigger than our disease. Sometimes you get caught into our conversation. We think that life starts with our addiction. And before our addiction, we were human beings. And we continue to be human beings during the addiction process and as well as the recovery process. So when we talk about step 2, what we're really talking about here is being restored to that sacred identity. And I don't need to be contributing to it by telling people I am this or I am that. So that to me is very important, because what I find when I talk to people, that they are very self-condemning. They use a lot of words like shoulds and musts and needs. What's the matter with me? I can't remember doing this rather than going back to old patterns and so on. And there's reasons for that, friends. It's not because you are diminished in any way. You just, if you find yourself ruminating with a problem over and over and over again, all that's happening is you're missing something. There's not something connected there. Because if you believe in God and you believe in this idea of sacred identity, you can't think that you're that broken, although we've had broken moments. So where was I? I was in this sober. I was physically sober for a lot of years. And similar to Bill Wilson's experience, when 18 years sober, he began to think that there's a next frontier in all of this, that he recognized his depression and he needed something more at a different level, which he named the next frontier, and he called it emotional sobriety. So he was 18 years sober, and 14 years after he wrote the big book. And he began to sift that a fog is lifting, right? I think last week someone was talking about how painful these situations are. And that's what waking up is about. Waking up can be painful. Because I love this idea. Again, I'm not a Buddhist, but I love some of the phrases in Buddhism. They talk about wiping the mirror. You see? They're cleaning the mirror. This is what we do. We clean our mirrors. And when we talk about we clean, we don't want to So we're wiping our mirrors. We're getting a better image of ourselves. And sometimes when we do that, we don't like what we see. That's a good sign, by the way. That's not something bad. That's good. Because we're getting an education of what true north looks like. So we should be celebrating that uncomfortableness rather than thinking we're less than because of it. And this is what approaching emotional sobriety is about. It's about advancing, not avoiding, but advancing what shows up in our lives and learning how to deal with them. So For most of my life, I thought I had to get rid of emotion. And it wasn't the emotion. It's how I related to the emotion that was important. See, it's not my thinking. It's how I relate to my thinking. It's not my limited beliefs, but it's how I relate to those limited beliefs. So this practice of emotional sobriety for me is about how I relate to these things. I wished for a lot of years that I would get rid of my fears, as an example, because I thought, what is there to be afraid of? And I thought that was a weakness. And I would do the regular things like I think most people do. I would pray to have them removed, and they never were removed. I tried to look at them and force them, pretend I didn't have them because I thought I was weak as a result of having fears. But what I learned is that fear is a natural human reaction that's been with human beings for hundreds of thousands of years. So it's not about getting rid of them, but how to relate to them. So what I'm suggesting to you today is that emotions or negative thinking or the inner critic or the limiting beliefs that each of us have, we could do very little about them except for how we relate to them. And if you could keep that distinction in mind, I think you're going to be happy as the result of it. Because if you're in a fight with fear or anger or resentment, you're going to diminish your well-being. There's no doubt about it. So, for people who weren't here, let me just do a quick review of what we did. Is that better, Anna?
Yes, that's great. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. I won't stay too long on this because I always got so much to do and I don't. So we're talking about emotional sobriety, mindfulness, and self-acceptance. Last week we talked about positive relationships. And just to give you this thought, what does that got to do with emotional sobriety, a relationship? And I'm often reminded about, two things. One, I took to heart when people say we're not marriage counselors, we're not banks, we're not employment centers. But when we say that, what's missing is this: in all our affairs. See, no, I'm not a marriage counselor. I don't give marriage advice. No, I'm not a banker because I'm a poor person. and I'm not an employment agency. But what I can be with people is to begin to see how they relate to those things for their own sobriety and well-being. See, that's something I know something about. And the sharing I have around all my affairs is an important piece in regulating emotions. So we had a metaphor. Each of us are captains of our own sailboat, and it's about a sailboat journey. And what a captain does, and what we've been talking about, is that we do a few things. One is what we pay attention to. I cannot tell you how important this is, and it's often overlooked. We kind of drift our attention in different places. So if something shows up we don't like, we become focused on that. And we hang on to it. And we've had a practice of doing that. And all of a sudden, again, I go back to the Buddhists. They say there's two arrows that pierce the heart. One is pain, which is inevitable. You can't prevent pain in life. The second is suffering. That is avoidable. So we engage in a negative thinking and we hang on to it and we try to understand why or what's wrong with me. We're compounding that pain and our suffering. So what we pay attention to is important. And we've said it in many different ways. You've heard this in many different ways. 2 wolves on the shoulder, 2 angels on the shoulder, 1 black, 1 white. Who are you going to listen to? It's not that we never heard that before. But if you're like me, you say, oh, that's interesting. I like that. And I may have even repeated it a few times, but I didn't practice it. I was so unmindful. At the point when I could have made a choice, I was unaware. I was going through life on automation or habits. See, this is what's important, to pay attention. What are we paying attention to? What are we focused on? Thoughts is the next thing. What are our beliefs? What are our interpretations? What's occurring to us? Not reality. We don't live in reality. We live in our occurring. We have a perspective on life. And we need to be aware of that, because we cannot be absolute in our beliefs that we are in reality. So how life occurs to us, and it's often represented in language, by the way. What's the motivation here? How can I get motivated to make these changes that my heart space says I'd like to make? How am I going to make them? If you're anything like me, you had some success, but there's more that's needed. And it's as if I didn't have enough energy to change the things I really need to change. So I needed my reasons, my needs, and the benefit of changing and the motivation. And then lastly, actions. We talk about this in AA. We practice, and how that word is often, for some reason, overlooked. Well, we know the words. We know the word practice. We know what it means. But somehow our brain, after it learns something, is satisfied, and our bodies, if we're disconnected, doesn't have the same kind of energy to act out. And I mean action, something observable, by the way. I don't mean something necessarily internal. So what I do with emotional regulation is, if we go through this wheel here. Water in this metaphor is life domains. So I have different roles in my life. That's what a life domain is. I have different roles. I'm a grandfather. I'm a father. I'm an employer. I'm a AA member. I am a mental health coach. I'm a practitioner in positive psychology. All of these things are my roles. So what I need to see in these life domains is how I'm operating in each of those domains, because oftentimes there isn't consistency from one domain to another. So I can be very kind in AA, but to my neighbor that I don't like, I cannot be. It's too kind. So I want to be able to appreciate that and all those domains to start to increase my strengths in other domains. Looking at our emotions, the compass. Emotions to me is a compass now. It gives me true north. It isn't something to be avoided. It isn't something to be suppressed or controlled or forced. It is pointing something for me. It's this universe giving me feedback. And for this, I want to say this. My head can lie. And here's the paradox. I trust what I think and conclude. But the brain has the capacity to lie, to spin, to exaggerate, to delete. And yet I trust it emphatically because I think it, I believe it's true. My body has no capacity to lie. None. It has no ability. And I don't trust it. I rather trust the organ that's going to perhaps lie to me than trusting the body which cannot lie. So I would equate the body to the emotions. Here's an emotion that's coming up. It's coming up for a reason. It may be uncomfortable for me, but it is a reason why it's coming up. And I need to embrace it and to be with it so I can learn what's causing it. Every boat has a steering wheel. Every boat has a steering wheel. And The captain can steer in the waters the direction of their sailboat, make choices based on values or our principles. We could think about it that way. Now, every boat can have leaks. This is our weakness. See, this is not about ignoring weaknesses, friends. It's more about identifying them and building coping and resiliency mechanisms to deal with them. Notice I didn't say get rid of them. It's very different. When you think about steps 6 and 7, this fits so beautifully. We're not told to get rid of them. We're asking God to deal with them. So in this piece here, what I'm trying to share with you is that we need to have ways of dealing with them rather than hoping that they go. And that can be done on coping and resiliency. Next is the sails of the sailboat. When it's full of wind, the sails takes the sailboat farther, faster. Sails is our strengths. So the very minimum, I believe today, to examine my strengths as much or as often as I examine my defects of character. No more, but no less. So in my step 10, I've incorporated a strength analysis, a strength journal, to see where I'm using my strengths. Either I'm underutilizing or overutilizing them, so that I can better regulate my emotions. You know, part of life is dealing with weather. Weather is a storm. And we have to learn to deal with storms in our life. Not simply be angry about it or have some self-pity in it, but to come to the reality is we need to learn how to cope and be resilient during moments of storms. Number 7 is how to deal with other people, how to deal with other boats. And so this is what we're trying to do here. We're trying to learn how to, in their social environment with relationships, how are we relating to them? And lastly, our destination. If our destination in this journey is about social or emotional well-being, then we need to be heading in that direction. And this is what this workshop is about. So just to make a very simple statement here, emotional sobriety means mindfulness, maximizing strengths, positive relationships, meaning and valued living, emotional IQ, coping and resiliency, and the science of self-acceptance. These areas contribute to emotional regulation. So even if I'm faced with the storm, I don't have to be overtaken by emotions anymore. I've learned to deal with them and be with them. Now, for most people, what we think about emotional sobriety. We think about one piece of this triangle. If some of you have been through CBT before, you're going to recognize this triangle, where there's thoughts, behaviors, and emotions. And each are connected to each other. They're bidirectional, so they're bound together. We can't pull this out without pulling the others. We need to deal with our lives in this manner together. It's all about the combination of how we think creates certain emotions, how our emotions also create how we think. And our behaviors are being driven at times through emotions or being driven through our thoughts that haven't been well thought out. I got this cat, my granddaughter's cat won't leave me alone. Yeah. So this is what we're doing here. This is what we're doing. So last week I didn't finish up on positive emotions, and I would like to do that now. So emotions are a natural response to internal and external stimuli. It's natural. Don't make it mean something about yourself. what I'd like you to consider is being an observer in this. I use the metaphor of putting on a scientist hat with glasses, and what I'm doing, I'm running an experiment called life. I have no certainty anymore. I'm not looking for certainty. I used to look for certainty all the time and trying to know things. The need to know becomes an obsession. I'm just an apprentice here in living life. And I come at these ideas with open-mindedness and with the flexibility to adapt. Even something I may like today to try on, I'm ready to let it go if, in fact, I find it doesn't work. It's nature's way of sending us a signal. Please remember that. Don't feel poorly about yourself. My heart gets sick when I hear people talk about themselves, and I'm thinking, there's other ways of dealing with this. Sure, we all make mistakes. We all say that we're not perfect. Everybody knows that, right? Who doesn't know that? Everybody knows that. Well, I'm not perfect. I'm a human being. But somehow knowing it, when we fall short, we feel it differently. We feel less than. We feel worthless. We have shame and we're embarrassed. And why do we feel that? Because we have some sort of perfection benchmark that hasn't been realistically looked at. It just kind of showed up. And we judge ourselves against this imaginary benchmark, which can never be achieved. So please feel good about yourself. Look at the wonderful things that you're doing. You're here, you're sober, you're abstinent, whatever program that you're in. Your heart's desire is to change your life, or else you wouldn't be here. You're in a spiritual program. You're seeking God in your own way, and however you go about doing it. Those are wonderful, wonderful things. Congratulate yourself. I have people that say, go look in the mirror and look deep in your eyes. Look deep in your eyes. And as you look in those eyes from that mirror, you tell yourself you love you. I love you. Thank you for being me. That sounds ridiculous, I know. But what it does, it helps offset this idea that we're less than, that there's something wrong with me, because it's so ingrained. I don't know if the brain likes the drama of that, and it captures us magnetically, or what it is. But I have to remind myself that I'm a child of God, and that I've been given an identity based on the image and likeness of God. Just imagine how powerful that is if I could be present of mind with that. So the so-called negative and bad emotions become helpful when we can stop and evaluate where we've gotten off our spiritual path. So they become true north for us. So if I have some self-pity, as I have a feeling about that, I know for sure. I know what it feels like. I also know that every human being on earth has self-pity. So I'm not alone. It's not happening to me. I also know it's temporary. It's going to come and go. And we did an exercise and a meditation called Leaves on a Stream, where we had a visual meditation together, if you recall, if you were here, about sitting by a stream with trees and green grass and sun shining. And the leaves were falling on the stream. And we were to put whatever we're hanging on to, whatever was unhelpful, whatever thoughts we had, put it on the leaf as it floats down the stream into the river. So we allow it to teach ourselves to let it come, let it go. This practice, and it's also a practice to be done every day. Don't save up for some crisis in your life and try to let it go. It's too late. It's too late. It's like grocery shopping when you're starving to death. You're going to pick up the wrong things. Trust me, I know. When we practice these ideas in incidences that don't really matter much, we build our let go muscle, so that when we do need it, we can call on that resiliency. So consider practicing the leaves by the stream, or sailboats on an ocean, or clouds in the sky. Something comes, something goes. Something comes, something goes. Everything is temporary. Then I can, if I ignore these emotions, which I had for a lot of my life, what I didn't know then, I cut myself off from the positive emotions as well, because I've disconnected my body. So I couldn't feel joy or happiness. I used to say for a lot of years, what's the best part of a party? Leaving. And I wasn't really kidding about it. I didn't seem to have the ability to enjoy people like I do today. That's some of the consequences of ignoring my body sensations. I want to be able to feel everything. I want to be able to honor everything. I want to be able to look at what it's doing for me rather than what it's doing to me. You know, when we make something about ourselves, these ideas around frustration, anxiety, restlessness, depression, and isolation, we're inviting self-judgment. We become more and more critical of ourselves. And we use words like we're good or bad or strong or weak. And this is so unfortunate. You know what? We're human beings. We're making the best way we possibly can. And we need to acknowledge that in ourselves. So we don't want to continue down self-doubt and disappointment and discouraging, because that's unhealthy. That's an unhealthy way of feeling and thinking. We want to be in a discovery way. We want to be able to look at challenges or problems, like the storms in our life, as opportunities. Why is it an opportunity? Because I get to discover my true character in those moments. I get to look at, to see what strengths will be available to me to overcome or deal with whatever is in front of me. So in that way, it's an opportunity. Okay. Now, emotional dysregulation has physical consequences. It's you know, one might not think that. It lowers our immune systems. It contributes to serious physical illnesses. It also increases our chances of returning to our primary addiction or starting a secondary or third addiction, because we're seeking comfort from this dis-ease. It has consequences. We can't be fully engaged when we're hanging on to things emotionally. We can't be available to people because we're preoccupied. So emotional sobriety is about recognizing, understanding, and effectively regulating our emotional states. It involves being aware of our emotions and making conscious choices rather than impulsive reactions from a place of an unchecked emotion. Developing emotional sobriety can provide numerous benefits, including increased resilience and improved relationships with others. Can you imagine? As we get to know our emotions, we're able to better connect with other human beings. And if all this is vague to us, we're not really looking at it, we can never understand another human being. So this practices that we're talking about here will improve relationships. Practicing mindfulness, exploring different coping mechanisms and strategies can help us be more emotionally balanced and have healthier relationships with others and ourselves. With ourselves, how am I relating to me? You know, so if I have a self-image that I am selfish, I want you to get the depth of what I'm saying to you, the identity piece. If I am selfish, and that's how I relate to me, what does a selfish person think? What does a selfish person feel? And what are the behaviors of a selfish person? It's selfishness. We just painted a picture of it. Walks like a duck, quacks like a duck. Guess what is a duck? Instead of saying, yes, I have moments like this, but I have strength, God-given strengths, like patience, like love and kindness is our code. When I go out and practice love and tolerance, matter of fact, this week, my intentional practice this week is to start every conversation with love and kindness. You see? And just that intention placed in my head, and the moment I start talking to somebody, changes the way in which the conversation goes. It creates a whole new direction. And I can see in the person's eyes that they light up because they've been validated. They've been listened to. They have a voice. You know, this week my celebration of 50 years of sobriety was in my group on Wednesday night. And we had a good crowd. And many people that came have known me for a long time. And to hear my story through their eyes and their voice, I was so grateful to hear it, because it was a moment of clarity of how much what God has given me. They talked about kindness. They talked about helping people. They talked about I changed their lives. And of course, this is not me that did it. It's through the grace of God that's doing it, but I was available to do it. And I was heartstruck to hear my story being told by different people. You see, we have all this available to us. You don't have to wait 50 years to do it. We can start it right now, today. You can start off with a simple intention of practicing a strength called love and kindness. And not just people that you love, but the people that are indifferent to, and people that maybe you don't like, to practice love and tolerance. Now, some of you are all or nothing thinkers. What you might have just heard me say, but I'm not a doormat. That's true. A strength can turn into a weakness if it goes too far. And that's why we have to practice our strength and regulate them, because they can turn into a weakness as well. For instance, one of my strengths is persistent. But when I carry persistence too far, it becomes stubbornness. Interesting, isn't it? So we can take love and be codependent because it's gone too far. We could take love and be a doormat because we're not caring for ourselves. So we need to pay attention to these things, because we'll go off on a tangent because of this idea of all or nothing thinking. We need to continue to look at these ideas and regulate the best we can. So I'm just going to take a drink. My throat is dry. I'm interested in what people are hearing for themselves and what they would like to share.
Thank you. Thank you, John. That was a very, very fitting conversation about emotional sobriety. So now we're going to open the meeting for a few minutes for sharing. Please keep your share short and concise to give everyone a chance. And please keep it relevant to the disease of alcoholism and the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. No outside issues. Please raise your virtual hand if you'd like to share, and I'll watch for the hands. Julie, please go ahead.
Hi, everybody. I'm Julie. I'm an alcoholic. And John, thank you so much. I love listening to you and just some of the practical solutions you give, just about changing my terminology to myself in my self-talk. What's just really resonating with me is, when you said, I am having you said selfish moment, versus saying I am being selfish, because I was a character defect that came out really strong and slapped me in the face this week was just being judgmental and critical. And, and I was really getting down on myself. But if I say, I had some judgmental or critical moments this week, it's like, yeah, it happened, and now we move on and we learn from it, versus saying I'm bad, I'm bad, I'm bad. But I really appreciate how you teach just different ways to say things. And I don't know, I'm really, really loving this workshop. Thanks so much for doing it.
Thank you, Julie. Victor, go ahead. Please unmute yourself.
Yeah, I did. Thanks, Anna. And great to see everyone here. Thank you so much. What's come to mind for myself is that I'm not very old in AA, and I just passed a significant date too. I just turned 65, and one would think by 65 you might know better than to think that the world's not good enough. And that's what I've been doing. I've been blaming the world instead of looking truly at my own self. Like, why am I still sick? Like, I'm still, I have a physical ailment that I've been fighting for 2 years to get them to do evaluations. And the tools that you show us, John, in AA, there's so much parallel that it's amazing to me. Like my ex-wife has reached out, and and she's gonna finally do what I asked of her 5 years ago when she left. I asked her to take her things, But anyway, these are little problems. Like, my life is little problems, but I honestly believe that the spiritual condition is parallel to the physicality too. And it's in all the medical texts and everything else, that if I weaken myself by worrying, I weaken myself by overextending, I weaken myself by not doing the very simple things like, get 6-8 hours sleep, not 2, eat properly, not what's easy for me, So anyway, I love this group. I missed it dearly, and I'm still here, and I'm remaining loyal to the program. Thank you very much. Happy New Year, everyone, and Merry Christmas to all.
Thanks, Victor. Nice to see you. I don't see any other hands up.
Erica, your hand was up. Did I lower it accidentally, or did you change your mind?
That's okay. No, I would like to ask a question. Thank you.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Erica.
Good day, everyone. Recurrent alcoholic. Can you please elaborate more on when you said something like, I'm willing to be angry, like you feel anger, but you're not letting it hinder you from doing what you need to do. Because in my mind, when I get angry, in a weird way, I feel bad that I'm getting angry. I feel like I should be Teflon. Like, why should I get angry over you? You understand? And when you said the consequences, I'm starting to see the consequences of my character defects in reference of, it just hit me on how I react. I just see how I react in the workplace. I do not see criticism in a positive way. But I also have to remember that everybody is not working like we are working. I do not have a good relationship with authority figures. Even after 12 years, I don't have, if you yell at me, and I had supervisors, I seen them like punch the file cabinet. And guess what I did? I applied for a new job. That scared me. And everybody like, well, you shouldn't take that personal. To me, that's trauma. You understand? So just elaborate more, like when you said, I'm not going to, I'm willing to be angry, but I just paraphrased it. I'm willing to be angry than to fight it. So can you give a more example of that? Because I fight the anger. I ignore it. So how do I not fight it and accept it and have spiritual, emotional regulation?
Okay, great question. Because when you think about how you react to your anger now is a learned experience.
Mm-hmm.
And it started in early in childhood, and trauma did have an effect, absolutely effect on how we think and how we feel. As a little child, what you're trying to do is to understand this adult world, and you created ideas and thoughts and conclusions about it. So you've learned how to deal with anger the way you deal with anger. And there's nothing wrong with it. You need to respect that. There's nothing wrong with you. What I'm suggesting here is that we learn another way. So learning another way takes effort and focus. We're back at the captain. And if ideally, how would you like to deal with your anger? Being in conflict with it only makes it worse. Like you said to yourself, I shouldn't be angry. So you're in conflict with yourself because you are angry. And you say you shouldn't, really talks about a gap in what's happening versus when you think you should be doing. But because anger is real, it's true to you, and it's telling you something. We can look, and as long as we are with it, we can begin to learn from it. What is there to learn? Well, you just mentioned something about authority figures. So what strength can I use in front of authority figures that I have that would eliminate the anger coming out? Now, this is where the strength focus comes in and dropping the defect of character. Because you already said, another lady in front of you said, when I feel angry, I can mean something about me. It becomes heavy, it becomes small. So certainly that's no way to grow a life. But what I'm suggesting here is that anger can be a benefit, not to act out and punch people or filing cabinets, but it can say, hey, I know you, anger. I know you. I'm familiar with you, and you probably helped me sometime in my life. You know, your anger may have prevented something from happening. So it's a friend of yours in a way, a good neighbor. But because we're angry, we're overtaken by an emotion. And there's reasons why that's taken place. So with some consideration in step 10, we may look at, okay, I'm feeling angry. What's underneath that? What needs do I have are not being met? So you start asking yourself these questions rather than saying, what's wrong with me? See, what's wrong with me narrows the creative pipe very small. When you open it up, you begin to see things I never would imagine before. So as an example, maybe you didn't know how to communicate with an authority figure, or maybe you felt it made you smaller. When someone told you what to do, you didn't like it. So if that's the case, what strength you have that would help you overcome that so that you wouldn't get angry? And I know I'm not giving you a definitive answer because this is for you to discover. I don't have a definite answer. I have a structure for you.
Okay.
So what I ask you to do, if you're willing to, is to sit and be open like a scientist and say, what needs are not being met? What do I need from my employer, my authority figures? What can I, and I'll tell you some of the things that will happen is that for me, I didn't know how to communicate my disagreement without getting angry. I didn't have the words to have that conversation. So all I had was emotion. I remember as a young boy, I was doing very poorly in school. And I thought I was stupid. I concluded that I was stupid. And I was envious of the better students. And but I didn't think I could compete in that world because I had made a conclusion that I was stupid. So you know what I did?
What?
Bullied. I fought because I was strong, big, and determined. I could take those guys on, and then they would all be afraid of me. See, that's what I discovered about me and how that bullying started with me until I got into AA and started to realize what is at the source of this, and what strength do I have? So it turns out I wasn't stupid at all. I was just lazy, which is very different. And so I began to gather my strengths so that I could have language to deal with things that I was feeling poorly about myself instead of being a bully or getting angry with people.
Okay.
Did that help you?
Yes, because no, if it wasn't, I'll let you know. I don't have a problem saying that. But it just made me realize that when I go in front of authority figures, definitely in the workplace, I'm automatically thinking I'm less than because they're already frustrated.
Yeah.
And just like, but I know this is one program, but if it's hysterical, it's historical. But they already frustrated. They trying to meet deadlines. I'm trying to meet deadlines. And it's unrealistic. So they're not telling their superiors, their boss, this is unrealistic. So they pass it down. But just like you said, like I need to be aware of my anger and be able to articulate myself in a professional manner and to set up boundaries to ask for what I need and not feel wrong about it.
Exactly. You got it. You got it.
and not feel wrong about it. But
Yeah.
I have to learn, and I'm not responsible for their response because they're very snorky.
Right.
You know? So
do.
where we're here to say, you know, I'm not perfect. I can't do everything. You can't show that in the workplace. You got to show you can get it done. No matter what, get it done.
Right.
By any means necessary, get it done. And that's unrealistic, you know? But yeah, thank you for that. It just feels good to be validated that I'm not wrong for being angry.
Right.
Because in the workplace, you're lucky you get a paycheck, but that's another day. But thank you.
Okay. I was working with somebody who had trouble with authority figures as well. And I said to him, did he have a hero in his life? He says, yeah, matter of fact, I did. He was a soccer coach of mine. And he always wore this baseball cap. And God, I admired that man, he said. And I said, well, put on that hat on your bosses and see them as a coach. And all of a sudden, just doing that, this whole perspective changed about that. Because the modality of the situation changed. He saw his bosses as coaches rather than people commanding and demanding something of him. Just a thought. Yeah. Okay, so let's get back at it, because once again, I'm off target here. I get so excited about this material, friends, because so the benefits, I'll just go quickly, is increased ability to respond to stress in healthy ways. This is what happens when we start looking at those areas of our life and we start working from our strengths. We have an increased ability. Now, did you hear that last lady? How she articulated what she could do? It was beautiful because she was in her creativity. She could articulate what needs to be done, not with anger, fighting the anger, but looking in the solution of it for her. Improved communication between yourself and other people. We have to learn to communicate. See, I'm sure some of my drinking had to do with, I just didn't know how to talk what was on my heart. I didn't have the words. So I become defiant and rebellious, and I become an angry human being because I didn't know how to communicate. I learned to have greater resilience as a result of approaching emotional sobriety. Increased focus. So you can imagine having a life that you're mindful about. Social scientists suggest that we are in automation or old habits, old patterns for 47% of the time. In other words, half of our waking hours, we're not even aware. And I think that's just humanity. And I think alcoholics are particularly prone to this, and I'm sure it's higher than that for us. Emotional sobriety, we reduce impulsivity. We get to think about something. Last week, I introduced this amygdala, part of the brain that processes emotions, and it doesn't instantaneously. So what shows up in our thoughts right away is our emotions. And of course, emotional decisions aren't good decisions. They're based in passion and fears and so on. The prefrontal cortex, the executive function follows. So if we just pause, we talk about in AA, it's scientifically supported. If we pause and allow the prefrontal cortex to think of reasons and logic rather than immediately reacting, the results become better. And with this practice of mindfulness, we're able to improve that. We're able to improve our decision-making. Obviously, when we're placing these things, emotions and old patterns, and we start to separate them and start asking ourselves better questions, we begin to make better decisions for ourselves. Better management of our financial life. Improve self-worth. I want you to reflect on, after we leave here, what is my self-worth? What do I value in me? I want to kick, pardon this expression, I want to kick the ass out of my defects of character that I don't want to pay attention to them all the time. I find it to be so harmful. Now we have to be responsible for it. Don't jump to conclusions of what I said as if I'm perfect and I'm not looking at my weaknesses. No, it's not true. I do that every night, but I'm not obsessed with them. I am obsessed. If I'm obsessed at all, I'm obsessed with my strengths. Enhance physical health. Enhance mental health. So week 1, we did a metaphor on mindfulness. We did that together. Week 2, we did the leaves on the tree meditation, a practice of letting go. Week 3, we did a yes and no brain exercise, connecting the body sensations to our brain so that we can begin to see the power of what emotions and thoughts and behaviors have on each other. And we did the science of self-acceptance, this idea of non-judgment, self-compassion, temporary, that these things become temporary, and we have a curiosity to learn. We have a growth mindset. Now, some of you may know me through my God consciousness workshop. I believe that God is causing me and you to expand, to grow, to become more effective in this world. We have been given a mission to help somebody, a group of people who are still suffering from the disease of alcoholism. So God is always expanding us. He's always getting us to grow. That's why we have these urgings to do more, be more, and learn more. So it's completely natural. We have to then go and learn and practice what it is we've learned. So last week, we didn't get this far, and I haven't even touched on what we're doing this week is the top 10 benefits of positive relationships. Communicate openly and honestly. Ask yourself, am I a person who can communicate openly and honestly, to be vulnerable, to be authentic? And for most of us, we have to answer no, because we just don't know how to ask directly without intimidation or forcefulness. Respect each other's boundaries and privacy. Offer support in difficult times. Be considerate of each other's needs and feelings. Make an effort to spend quality time together. Share experiences and activities and interests, not from a preoccupation point of view, but from an engagement point of view. In other words, you are available. For many years, if I was at work, I wanted to be at home. And if I was at home, I wanted to be on vacation. And if I was on vacation, I could hardly wait to get back to work. That's the way my mind was operating at the time. So be engaged in the moment. Practice this mindfulness. There's a banquet there waiting for you immediately as you become more connected to the present moment. Learn how to apologize. And learn to accept apologies when offered. To be lady enough and man enough to say, I forgive you. And hoping to hear those words from other people who we've harmed. Celebrate your successes together, big and small. Celebrate them. Celebrate getting up in the morning. Celebrate another day without alcohol or being abstinence. Celebrate it. And try to listen in a conversation without judging. Learn to become an empathetic listener. So what I was offering you for exercise last week, which you'll take on this week if you so desire, is 4 steps to process how to communicate without demanding. It's very simple. First of all, be an observer of the conversation. In other words, we would say it maybe another way. Don't take it personally. To be an observer of the conversation. Like the lady that's talking about her boss and hearing the demands and so on. I'm sure she's taking it personally. or else she wouldn't have gotten angry. Try to observe that rather than taking it personally. Express your feelings. I feel that when you yell at me, I get angry. And what I need you to do, this is the third one, is needs. What I need you to do is to talk to me in a civil tongue at a decent level. And make a request is the fourth piece. What do you want? What do you want in this conversation? What do you need? Don't say it in an expectant voice. Make a request. So those four things are observe, share your feelings, share your needs, and make a request. And you'll find your relationships will increase significantly if you follow this simple process. Okay, does everybody want to share? I'm not going to get to this week's stuff. Who would like to share?
I'm sure by now you know how to raise your virtual hand. We'll take questions now or comments. We'll go to Deborah, is it? In Munich. We'll come back to you, Sue.
Hi, I'm Deborah. I'm a colleague. Thanks for doing this workshop. I really loved it. So the communication thing is, I try to work on that. And I don't have the problem anymore, most of the time, to be an observer in a communication. But then my feelings come up. Yeah. And to steer that and not to fall in my old patterns, I really find it so hard to express my feelings in a balanced manner, because sometimes in a conversation, somebody triggers some emotions, and the first thing is, I'm going to load my machine gun. I'm not going to do that, and I'm not going to act on that. I know that to now, but this is my first reaction. So I have to pause, and then to express the feelings in a polite and decent way, and to stay on my side of the road. I still find that hard, and what I don't have so much when somebody really gets to me, sometimes I have this sometimes with my boss, because she's stressed and she's shoving it all to my side. It has nothing to do with me. And then I express my feeling and I say, like, no, it's not like that. I feel like this. And then she starts jumping into my face. And this is where I get, I have such a hard time, because then I'm floating in the ocean, I don't know where to go. Sometimes I do, and sometimes I go to the hot toilet just to have a breather, because my emotions are not clear, Thank you for letting me share.
You're welcome. So you said some wonderful things. One is that you react to how to a conversation in a particular way. You get your emotions come forward. There's a real opportunity for you to see what's underneath that. It's just a real opportunity. So that you can look at yourself and say to your boss, look, this is the way I'm experiencing this. Now, you may not intend to do that, but I want you to know how this is affecting me and landing on me. So they're talking about the feelings. You're not talking about her. There's no you in the conversation. There's only me. I would prefer, and what I need from you is this. Now, in the moment that this is happening, it's too late to do anything about it. It's too late. So we need to be thinking about how Because you know that you're going to have a conversation with your boss soon, and it's going to sound very similar. So in other words, it's predictable. What are you doing to rehearse? What words are you putting on paper that you can learn and practice before that event happens? How would you lead off the first sentence? Like, for instance, you could say something, I feel very passionate about something. Would you give me permission to share it with you? It's a great way of starting off. You're asking permission. And the person in authority feels the authority of that. And they're going to say, yes, go ahead. So they've given you permission to tell you what you feel and what you need. And know if it fails, you're going to fail at this. You're absolutely are going to fail. What's the relationship to failure? How am I going to relate to my failure in this? Well, what did I learn? See, I go back to the same cycle again. It's not that I'm bad or I'm weak or my emotions are out of control. What did I learn? What was missing that I couldn't convey effectively in a balanced way what my needs are? So you're learning all the time, but you're judging yourself against a failure, which is perfectionism, the context of perfectionism.
Oh, shoot. Yeah. Got it.
Yeah. So what we want to be able to do is not have that context of perfectionism, which doesn't show up, by the way. It's not clear. It's operating in the background. What we want to say is, you know what? I know I'm going to fail, and I'm going to learn something from this failure so I can practice something different, which may work or may not work better. So you're experimenting all the time. See, what happens with human beings is that we go on from one thing to the next thing to the next thing to the next thing without really benefiting from examining the first thing that happened to us. And we're not prone to practice and putting ideas together. How am I going to handle this better, more effectively? How am I going to get what I want? And if you start working at that idea before a problem happens, you'll be surprised how effective you will be.
Mm-hmm. That is good. Thank you. Because I had some conversation where I got over the top and I did amends, and she was really surprised. She said, like, oh, this is really cool, Yeah, but how do I do it effectively? That's great. Thank you very much, John.
You're welcome, dear. You're welcome.
I apologize. I hadn't unmuted Sue earlier.
Okay. So. Go ahead, Sue.
Thank you, guys. Hi, I'm Sue. I am an alcoholic, and I feel like I'm an overload. There's so much information. It's just so beautiful. Thank you, John, so much for such a beautiful share. What I want to share on today is, when you talk, you talked about how I didn't know how somebody gave the book to somebody about something, and I never learned these instructions and how we come awakened to it. And you talked about emotional sobriety, and you said something about how all experiences need to be honored, and that is that there's an opportunity to grow from them, and that's why I need to honor them. And I'm able to expand in developing in my strengths, my character strengths, rather than my character defects, if I do that. I didn't know that. I didn't know that that's the way to do it. And when you define emotional sobriety, you define it by two words, mindfulness and self-acceptance. And mindfulness to me, when you said that means that not to be afraid. Well, everything, I didn't try anything because I was always afraid. And from you, I learned, through your workshops, don't be afraid. Try it. Just be in the moment. I can't be in the moment if I'm afraid. I won't be able to be in tune to it. And you taught me, let it go, let that go, and try to be in as best as you can. Do what you can. Don't worry about that self-acceptance is my inner critic that you talked about last week or 2 weeks ago. And that's where I lived. And I didn't know. No wonder why I couldn't get emotional sobriety. And then you talk about how to communicate with demand without demanding. You talked about how to share my feelings and share my needs. I do. And my head tells me, your plan doesn't work because I did that. It doesn't work. You're not hearing me. And then you said, make a request. So when you talked about to be the observer, like I'm being the observer to listen. I didn't know that that's how that's the path to emotional sobriety. Being an observer means to listen. So I'm not sharing my feelings and needs. I'm listening right now. I'm listening first. And that's such a beautiful way to begin a conversation, to communicate with somebody. Listen first. I love that. And then make a request. I'm telling them, what do you want in this conversation? It's no longer about me. It's about them. What do you need from me? What do you want in this conversation? Like, wow, when did it shift from me to the person I'm listening to? Now I'm more concerned about what they want from me and how I can be of help and how I can be of service. And that's what I've learned from what emotional sobriety is that there's a path to getting it, but there's a method to do it. And I need to show up, and I need to experience and honor that experience that I'm in. And I don't do that very well all the time. So, and that's my opportunity to grow. So I don't know. There's just a lot. I thank you. Just thank you.
Okay. There's a couple of things I want to point out that are important. If you're feeling fear and you're trying to do something to overcome the fear and hoping the fear will go away, you're no longer in the moment. You're somewhere else. The moment is you're feeling fear. What I'm saying to you, it doesn't have the power. It's not that you won't feel it. Every one of us feel the fear. What I'm trying to get everybody to do is to embrace it rather than to push it away. Embracing it keeps you in the moment. And at that moment, if you're in the moment with fear and you're trying to understand rather than judge yourself, what will come up for you is creative solutions on how to deal with fear. Fear it can benefit us and has benefited us. It gives us prudence in some places. So it's not like getting rid of fear. No, it's useful to us too. But we have it as bad or negative because it's what we think. It stops us from doing what we want to do. It doesn't stop us from anything. It doesn't have the power to stop us. It's how I relate to the fear. That's what stops me. And don't forget, when we're talking about this communication, I was referring to what you need, what you want. It's great that you ask the other person. I think that's wonderful. But what we want to do is to make sure that we have some self-care in this. And that if you have a certain need or a certain feeling about it, make a request for yourself. It's okay to request for yourself. It's okay. If you need something from a partner or a child or a friend or whatever it is, it's okay to say, listen, I need this. I need this from you. Would you consider doing this for me or being this way for me? It's okay. See, we get so hypersensitive to selfishness. It's as if we're afraid to ask anything for ourselves because we think we're being selfish, and we're not. We need self-care. We need to love ourselves and love others and love our God.
We have another hand up. Gavin, please go ahead.
Thanks. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, everyone. My name's Gavin. I'm an addict. I'm in Scotland. It's really good to be with you all. I really appreciate the meeting. I'm glad I come across it. It come up in one of the groups I'm in, and I just saw emotional sobriety, and that was enough to sort of bring me here. Thanks, John, for what you shared. It was really good to listen to you. I'm struggling to focus a little bit at the moment, but I found your voice quite soothing, and I certainly, as has been mentioned, there was a lot there, and So it's good to take a few nuggets away. There was a question that come up. I'll just share a little bit briefly, kind of where I'm at. I'm struggling. I'm really struggling with the emotional sobriety side of things. Just try and sort of articulate it as kind of best as possible. But I really loved what you were saying about identity, and when you mentioned sacred identity, because I think I'm finding my identity at the moment in my character defects, and within that, I am giving myself a hard time. So there's self-condemnation and self-loathing going on, and then that's bringing in a lot of darkness, and I'm battling that darkness and starting to have some sort of suicidal thoughts and things like that, which I was doing okay. I mean, but these things just kind of creep in. I've definitely got the disease of alcoholism, even though for me it manifested in compulsive gambling and, smoking dope and many other things. I'm very codependent. There's a lot going on. It's quite complex. I'm mid-40s, but I can turn into a child very quickly. And it's not easy for me to really show up in the way I'd like to in my marriage and as a father, and that really is hard for me, because I feel like I'm hurting the ones I love, and that makes me want to hurt myself, and I can't seem to do much about it. Anger is a real struggle. It makes me feel very uncomfortable when it arises. I know there's fear intertwined with it. And then I just feel there's not enough God, in my life. I love God. I believe in God. But there's too much fear. There's too much of my own will. And there's just a lot of stuff going on. So yeah, I'm not comfortable. And what I find is my very sensitive family struggle with my tone, with my tone of voice. I think I'm someone who's got to try extra careful to really bring softness in, because I do have a lot of passion and a lot of kind of intensity. I have sort of put down the program in a way which isn't helping me. Of course, I mean, as you mentioned, it's like what you're left with is the restless, irritable, and discontent. And the last couple of days have really been tough. I'm grateful to still be in the house. My wife was very loving with me this morning and very forgiving, and it was a beautiful example. Her softness really helped me, and I've apologized to her and my son, and I just need to start over again. There is a little bit of fear of another kind of emotional combustion sort of kicking off, but I'm just trying to settle down and just get my head back into the program again, and just try and find some kind of peace and calm and be able to communicate effectively. I'll try the 4 steps that you mentioned. The question that came up for me was about when you said that we're bigger than our defects of character, and disease of addiction, and my mind straight away was like, how can that be? I don't feel like I am. I feel like God is, but I don't feel like I am bigger than my disease and character defects. I would like to feel that I was, but I just don't have that confidence in myself, I suppose. So if you could just elaborate on that a little bit, John, by what you meant by we are bigger than our character defects and disease, that'd be great.
Great. Gavin, I hope you don't mind me using you as an example. First of all, you're very insightful. You saw in yourself how you've infiltrated your sacred identity with your defects of character. That's unique. Yep. Most people don't see that. So you're able to separate who you truly are from learned behaviors that you have. So congratulations on that. The reason I mentioned that you're bigger than the disease and you're bigger than your defects of character is because we are defining ourselves by what we say about ourselves only in the realm of the defects of character. But there's a whole other side. I hope you can recall what you were saying. You've got a lot going on emotionally. You're too much of this, too much that, too intense. But you never said once what you're good at. You're so overly invested in your defects of character that you see yourself equal to that. What I'm suggesting is you're more than that because you haven't even investigated your strengths. You know what you want.
Yeah.
Oh, I got to be this way. I got to have that way. You know what you want, but you really haven't articulated it yet, only because you've been up to your neck in your defects of character. So that's what I mean, that you're bigger than your defects of character. And what I mean by you're bigger than your disease is that God has given us. I won't back off on this, but I also won't put it in any other way. He's given us the sacred identity. He's given that to us, a gift. And to me, if all I see in myself is something wrong or I'm a disease, that's an affront to God. Because what I'm ignoring is that all the gifts that I've been given, the strengths that I have, the talents that I've been given me, my sense of purpose that I have in my life is all dismissed because all I'm doing is paying attention to my defects of character. So spend some time in what you're good at. You're very articulate. You're insightful. There's lots of things you know what to do around your family and so on, because you can articulate what you're not doing. So it's the yin-yang picture of the circle with a dark shape and a white shape coming together. You wouldn't know what you're bad at if you didn't know what you're good at. There's a sense about you that says, I'm too much this way. And you're ignoring the opposite of who you are, of who you think you are, rather. It takes some investigation in the strengths realm to see what you're good for, what potential you have, what values you have. And then you discover, either through other resources or through wherever, how to become that step by step by step. You see, it's interesting that we are all or nothing thinkers. If we just took 5 minutes a day and practice on strength development, strength spotting in ourselves, it would change our life completely. Because what happens is this is my experience. I shared with you about my intention this week to be leading with love and kindness in every conversation. And because of that has been important to me, a lot of things didn't show up, like resentment or anger or upset or frustration. That just didn't show up. It's there. It's part of my humanity. But because I had an intention to practice something positive, it's like it goes to the sides of my mind and doesn't become front and center. So I just suggest to you, find people that want to develop their strengths. See, this is, friends, let me be honest here. We love a good meeting. We love to have a good chat, don't we? After all that's said and done, there's more said than done. Now, why is that? It's because we're not connected at a level with other people who are trying to achieve exactly what we're trying to achieve. We need a very specific conversation. That's why AA works, is because it is about alcohol and being sober. But these other things that we need to have, this freedom, this emotional sobriety, if you're not in an emotional sobriety conversation and you're not connected with people at that level, the chances of you succeeding in this are next to nothing. That's the truth of the matter. We need to have this conversation often. We need to be connected to people that have the same outcome that you're looking for, who are not problem-based, but are solution-oriented, who are actually practicing something for themselves. And if you haven't got those people, find them or start a group or do something. Because if you're just around thinking about it and wanting it, it's not going to happen for you. I got my certificate in mental health coaching this year. And I took it at a Christian university. And they had PhDs, they're psychologists, they had social workers, they had pastors there in the whole realm. One of the first things they said to, which stood out miles, because my certification is I'm a mental health Christian coach. That's my certification. One of the things they said to me that stuck with me is be careful of the over-spiritualization of dealing with mental health. And what do I mean by mental health? Broadly, what is meant is emotional sobriety. So I got to be careful to do the steps to take. Okay, I'm going to give you this example. I know we're running a bit late here. God has caused me to come to AA. He put it in my heart. No, go to AA. He caused me, and I have no doubt about that. But when I came to AA, I had to study the big book. God didn't give me that information. He didn't give me the vocabulary of the big book, although he caused me to be here. I had to learn the skill sets, the language, the behaviors, the attitudes of a different way of living. See, that's not God's place. That's my place. That's my responsibility. And it's the same with emotional sobriety. God has caused you to be here. Now it's up to you what you're going to learn and what you're going to put into practice and what you're going to invest in yourself. So, friends, if you have no one to talk to about this, find somebody. That's all I could say to you.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, John.
Good luck.
We're running, it's 12:37. Perhaps what we could do is finish the meeting with a prayer, and then maybe if John can stay a little bit to answer any other questions. Does that work for everybody?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Go ahead. So, John, I wondered if I could ask you to conclude with a prayer of your choice. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Anna. So let's just pull our hearts and our minds together and remember that we're on holy ground having a sacred conversation. And we get sensitive to God's presence in us, between us, and other people. And let's be grateful for the very existence of our breath, because you're not entitled to it. Let's give thanks to our Creator that we may be able to enjoy a fruitful and happy life, that He causes us to become a whole and complete human being, that we can thrive and flourish in spite of the disease of alcoholism or addiction. And we just want to give Him thanks for that. We're so grateful for the grace with which He provides us, and every morning, every day, every evening. And we give thanks to our brothers and sisters here who help us and guide us in the stories we tell ourselves about ourselves. We just give thanks to the Spirit among us. Amen.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Look forward to seeing you next week. Maxine, you've had your hand up for a little bit. Did you want to share?
I had a question. I'm really sorry. I think I got the time scale wrong. I thought the meeting started at 5 and not at 4. I do have a question for John, if he doesn't mind staying on. But I just think, in terms of emotional sobriety, I totally get that. But I'm in a house where my needs are not met, and as much as I can try to explain them, they're still not being met. So I think my only question there would be, how would you deal when you're, how can you deal when you're in a situation when you're always in the wrong? I'm the alcoholic of the house, my partner isn't, and I'm struggling with that. Mm-hmm. So maybe John could talk to me afterwards. But I'm really sorry, I got the time. I got the time wrong.
Yeah.
Forgive me.
That's okay. So I want you to appreciate that you've taken on a victim role.
Oh, okay.
That's the role you're fulfilling in your family. I'm a victim.
Okay.
And you know what's not working. You know that. You've already expressed it. This doesn't work. This doesn't work. This doesn't work. So what a scientist does when the hypothesis is not met, he tries another experiment. That's what scientists do. I would suggest to you that what I'd like you to consider is start putting together some other ideas, other ways of being, till it does work. And if it never works, and you're in that relationship and you're being diminished, you may choose to accept that for what it is. And I love this thought, by the way. Don't shoot him, he's wounded. You may have to come to that conclusion that the person that you're talking about is wounded so badly that they just can't see the change. But you can be an example if that's what you choose to do, to be in that relationship. And you can continue to try to experiment. One of the things I found to be very effective is this, is to approach the person and say, you know what, I love you. I want to continue to have a relationship with you. But you know what, I feel that I'm being treated poorly. And would you listen to tell you what I would need?
Okay.
And then bring them into the conversation rather than telling them something. Would you be willing to work with me a little bit on how both of us can manage this relationship? Here's my request, that you stop saying boom, 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 please, whatever that is, and get an agreement. And if the person isn't absolutely, for some reason, the person doesn't want to agree to anything, then it's entirely up to you what you're going to accept or not.
Yeah.
All you can do is keep trying different things and be in the conversation of what you need, and stop playing the victim role. You've got a right to be there.
Yeah, fair enough. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, friends, I have a form.
Can we all unmute and thank Anna for sharing and John for sharing? We really appreciate both of you.
Thanks, John.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Thank you.
John.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John.
Happy
Thank you, Anna.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Anna, for
Everybody.
sharing.
Everyone.
God bless.
God bless you all.
Thank you for the
Thank
opportunity.
you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
John.
Julie, for being our greeter today. Great job.
Yeah, thank you.
You did.
Thank you, Debbie.
And happy Hanukkah and every celebration to everyone. Happy everything.
Here.
Thank you. New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Bye-bye, friends.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
So glad we had this time together.
Good. Turn on your earlobe if you're going to sing. Right, Carol Burnett?
Oh, she was so good, eh? She was great. Yeah, her and Harvey what was his name? Harvey
Corman?
Huh?
Corman?
I think, yeah.
Yeah.
And the other one, the other guy, Tom something, trying to remember his last name.
Tim Conway?
Tim Conway, yeah.
And who played
so
Vicky? Yeah, who played Vicky?
Vicki Lawrence.
Vicki Lawrence.
Okay. Boy, comedy was nice then, somehow, you know? Oh, there's
I like those.
Yeah, in the UK, there's all these New Year's marathons, eh?
Oh, yeah?
Oh.
Yeah. Stay up all night, and then I stay up all night, and then I don't have time to think of anything.
Well, I hope that goes peaceful, Victor.
I'm gonna head out.
Thanks, Anna.
Yeah. And I'm still not getting Deb. I'm still not getting any mail outs, eh? The emails from the group. Yeah.
Thank you, Anna, and the rest of the gang, John.
Thanks, Jill.
Yeah. What I keep doing is I go online and I get them off of other boards, right?
Right. I'm going to put you, I send the email out to several people just manually, and I'll put you on that list, okay?
Okay. You have my number, right? VFRKS 353?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I'm chasing you, eh? So
It's got your picture on it in a TV tube, so.
Oh, that one. Yeah. Okay. That's good. Yeah. Yeah. God bless this room and thank you. And
thank you, Victor.
Yeah.
And we'll be back Monday at 10 a.m. Central.
Sure. Well, enjoy the weekend. You deserve it.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye, Hugh.